Have you ever been in a situation where you felt like people weren't really saying what they meant?
Oh, definitely. Like there's some kind of hidden script.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody says it out loud, but you feel it. Maybe a friend asks for your opinion, but then, dismisses everything you suggest.
Or that same frustrating argument with a family member that just goes round and round.
Right, with no real resolution. Okay, let's try and unpack this today
Sounds good.
because we're doing a deep dive into these patterns, these unconscious habits we fall into. It's what the psychiatrist Eric Berne famously called games.
Right, games people play. His book from what, 1964? It was huge. I think it was even published in Turkey as Hayat Denen Oyun.
Yeah. And the key thing Byrne pointed out is that these interactions, they aren't just random. They follow predictable patterns, predictable structures.
And they have these hidden motivations and, crucially, payoffs. They're not necessarily fun games.
No, definitely not always fun. So for this deep dive, we've looked at excerpts from Byrne's work and also some interesting forwards and translators notes to get different perspectives.
Trying to really get to the heart of the theory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And our mission, really, is to give you a kind of shortcut to understanding these complex social things,
Yeah, to maybe shine a light on how these games work day to day.
hoping you recognize the dynamics, maybe see them in your own life, and get some ideas about how to navigate them a bit more consciously.
Okay, so where do we start? To understand the games, we first need Burns' basic idea about social interaction itself.
Which he saw as a series of transactions, right?
Exactly. Social intercourse is just transactions. And the basic unit, the building block of that.
That's the stroke. Not the medical kind, obviously.
No, not that kind. A stroke is just any act of recognition. A smile, a word, a question, anything that says, I see you.
Okay.
And when we exchange these strokes back and forth, that's a transaction.
We need these strokes.
Fundamentally, yes. Byrne argued, and research backs this up, that we have a deep-seated need for them, like social nourishment. We're driven to seek them out.
It feels biological almost. Didn't you mention something about rat experiments?
Yes, S. Levain's research. Rats that were handled, stroked, they showed better development all around, physically, mentally, emotionally.
Wow.
Yeah, even their brain chemistry and resistance to diseases like leukemia improved. It really hammers home Byrne's point. Biologically, any social interaction, even if it feels negative, is better than none at all. It fulfills that basic need for strokes.
Okay, so we need interaction. Now, when these transactions, these exchanges of strokes go smoothly, what
Right.
did Byrne call those?
Those are complementary transactions. That's when the response is appropriate and expected.
Like what you'd anticipate.
Exactly. Person A says something from one ego state, say adult, and person B responds from the corresponding state, also adult. The lines of communication are parallel, open.
So things just flow, like colleagues complaining about work, parent to parent maybe.
Yep. Or two friends logically discussing something, adult to adult. Or kids playing child to child. The interaction can, theoretically, just keep going smoothly.
Everyone's basically on the same page, using the expected part of themselves.
Right, but then you get interactions that feel off, jarring.
Those must be the cross transactions.
That's them. Communication breaks down because the response comes from an unexpected ego state.
Okay, give me an example.
All right, say someone asks a simple, factual, adult question. Have you seen today's report?
Okay.
And the other person replies, maybe sounding defensive or upset, like a child.
Hmm.
Are you saying I haven't done my job?
Ah, right. That's definitely crossed. An adult question met with a child defense.
Exactly. And Braun noted these are often what psychotherapists focus on because they signal where the communication wires got crossed, where the underlying issues might be.
Makes sense. So complementary is smooth, crossed is broken. What about ulterior transactions? They sound sneakier.
They are. They add a whole other layer. Ulterior transactions have two levels happening at once.
Two levels.
Yeah. There's the social level, the words being spoken, what seems apparent. And then there's the psychological level, the hidden message, the unspoken intent.
Okay, like the cowboy example in the text.
That's a classic. The cowboy says to the visitor, come see the hayloft. Socially, adult to adult, it's just an invitation to see part of the ranch.
But psychologically.
Psychologically, it might be a child-to-child flirtatious invitation, and the visitor's response may be a coy, I've always loved haylofts, reprise to that hidden level.
And the outcome depends on that hidden level.
Often, yes. Byrne emphasized that the psychological message usually dictates the real outcome, and the players might not even consciously know what game they're playing until the payoff. It can be quite surprising.
Okay, so Interactions can be straightforward, they can break down, or they can have these hidden layers. Now, how do these transactions build up into those games? We're not talking board games here.
No, definitely not Monopoly. In Byrne's framework, a psychological game is a specific recurring sequence of these ulterior transactions.
Recurring, so it happens again and again.
Yes. And it always heads towards a predictable, usually negative emotional payoff. It's like an unconscious script.
Feels bad, but familiar.
Exactly. You end up feeling a certain way, angry, sad, confused, victimized. But it's a feeling you felt before in similar situations. Byrne had a whole detailed analysis structure. Thesis, antithesis, roles, moves, advantages, payoff.
That sounds pretty complex for just understanding a conversation. Is there a simpler model?
Well, Byrne offered a kind of formula. Bait plus gimmick leads to response, then a switch, a cross-up, and finally the payoff.
Bait, gimmick, response, switch, cross-up, payoff.
Yeah.
Okay. Still a bit abstract. Didn't the Gouldings offer something clearer?
Yes, Bob and Mary Golding proposed a really useful three-step sequence. One, person A gives an apparent social message, but also a hidden psychological one, the bait.
Okay.
Two, person B responds to the hidden message, they take the bait.
Got it.
Three, person A then experiences a shift, often switching their own ego state, and feels that predictable bad feeling, the payoff.
Let's use that vase example. Who broke the vase? How does the Goulding model fit?
Perfect example. Step one. Mom, person A, asks, who broke the vase? Socially, it's adult asking for information. But psychologically, maybe there's a hint of accusation or an unspoken invitation for Johnny to squirm or lie. That's the hidden message.
Okay, the psychological bait.
Step two. Johnny, person B, responds to the hidden message, maybe feeling accused or trapped. He says, the dog did it. He takes the bait, responding from his child state.
Right. And step three.
Mom, person A, now shifts. Maybe she knew the dog couldn't have done it. She switches to her parent ego state, gets angry, feels justified in her anger. See, he lied. That feeling of righteous anger, perhaps mixed with disappointment, is her payoff.
Ah, so the bad feeling is the point, in a weird way.
Yeah.
Now, what about the drama triangle? Stephen Cartman's idea. How does that fit with game rules?
The drama triangle is a fantastic tool for seeing the roles people take on in these games. Cartman identified three main positions: victim, rescuer, and persecutor.
The victim, rescuer, persecutor.
The victim feels helpless, blamed, powerless. The rescuer steps in to save the victim, but often in a way that keeps the victim dependent. And the persecutor blames or criticizes the victim.
And people stick to one role.
Not usually. That's the key thing. Players often switch roles during the game. Someone starts as a rescuer, then feels taken advantage of and becomes a victim, then maybe lashes out as a persecutor. These shifts keep the drama going.
So back to the vase. How do the roles shift there?
Well, Mom might start seemingly as a rescuer, trying to find out what happened, maybe help clean up.
Okay.
But when Johnny lies, she might feel like the victim. He lied to me. Then, when she gets angry and scolds him, she steps into the persecutor role.
And Johnny?
Johnny might initially feel like the persecutor, having broken the vase. Then maybe the victim when he's being accused or scolded. The roles flip quite fast.
It really is like a dysfunctional dance. Now, Schiff's idea that we don't use all our ego states in every game, that's interesting.
Yeah. Schiff and others pointed out that sometimes a game involves only parts of the personalities involved. Like in, now I've got you, you son of a bitch, and Neji-sob.
Right.
One person might be operating mainly from parent and adult, laying a trap and observing. The other person might respond primarily from child, falling into the trap.
So the interaction itself involves all three states, but they're split between the players.
Kind of, yes. It's like the whole person, parent, adult, child, is formed between them for the duration of the game, rather than each person using all their states.
And in the vase incident.
Mom uses adult question, then parent, anger scolding. Johnny mainly uses child light offense. So again, not necessarily a full engagement from both.
And if that pattern repeats, the source mentioned it could harm Johnny's development.
Absolutely. If Johnny consistently interacts with Mom primarily from his child state in response to her parent, he might not fully develop his own internal adult reality testing, problem solving, or nurturing parent. Self-compassion, setting limits. It limits his psychological flexibility.
That makes a lot of sense. The idea of discounting was also mentioned as something that kicks off a game. What's being discounted?
Discounting is basically ignoring or minimizing something important about the situation. It's a way to justify starting the game.
Ignoring what, specifically?
Byrne identified 4 levels you can discount. 1, that a problem even exists. 2, the significance of the problem. 3, your own ability to solve it. Or 4, the possibility that the problem can be solved at all.
How does that apply to Mom in the vase?
She might be discounting reality. For example, maybe the dog was outside, making Johnny the only suspect. By asking who broke it, she might be discounting that obvious fact.
Or discounting Johnny's potential to tell the truth?
Exactly. Or discounting her own role in creating a situation where lying feels like the only option for him. This ignoring, this discounting allows the game, see, he lies, to proceed towards its familiar payoff.
Wow. So these games are really complex, built on these hidden messages, shifting roles, partial engagement, and even ignoring reality.
Pretty much. And Byrne and others cataloged dozens of specific games.
And you mentioned earlier that repeated games form life scripts.
Yes. Byrne believed that the games we play over and over and the payoffs we collect contribute to an unconscious life plan or script. He used the debtor game as a powerful example of how a game can shape a whole life.
And the negative payoff reinforces the script. How does that work? It feels bad, so why would it reinforce anything?
It's paradoxical. That familiar bad feeling, anger, victimization, helplessness confirms a core belief we hold about ourselves, others, or the world.
So Mom feeling angry confirms her belief that people can't be trusted, or children always lie.
Precisely. The feeling validates the belief, which makes it more likely she'll play the game again to get that same confirming feeling. It's a closed loop.
Okay. The text mentioned English identify 3 basic patterns. Neji Waisab, Kick Me, and Rapo. They sound pretty bleak.
They describe core dynamics. Ninja Waisab is about setting someone up to catch them out. I'm okay, you're not okay. Kick Me is about provoking negative reactions. I'm not okay, you're okay. And Rapo involves a kind of bait and switch around intimacy or sexuality.
And these link directly to those existential positions, how we see ourselves and others.
Very much so. Neji Sab reinforces, I'm okay, you're not okay. Kick Me reinforces, I'm not okay, you're okay. English even talked about potential conflicts between our conscious and unconscious positions. Bahrain's idea of psychological T-shirts captures this brilliantly.
The T-shirts.
Yeah, like on the front it might say, please be nice to me, but on the back, revealed through actions, it says, see, you kick me every time. It shows the hidden agenda.
That's a really vivid image. Claude Steiner saw games as power plays for strokes.
Steiner really focused on that fundamental need for recognition, for strokes. He argued that since many adults find it hard to give and get positive strokes directly, they resort to games, even negative ones, because games guarantee some kind of stroke, some form of attention. It's a way to get needs met, albeit dysfunctionally.
And it's not just one-on-one. Charlotte Sills talked about games in groups.
Right. Sills observed how games can function to maintain a group's balance, its homeostasis, even if it's an unhealthy balance. They can be a collective way of managing anxiety or avoiding difficult truths within the group.
It really shows how valuable Byrne's work was, giving people a language, a way to talk about these invisible patterns.
Absolutely. As James R. Allen pointed out in one of the forewords, it offered a practical way to gain psychological awareness and potentially change behavior.
Okay, let's dive into some specific games mentioned. You got me into this YGMIT. That sounds familiar.
It's a common one, especially in couples. Person A subtly maneuvers person B into a decision or situation, often against B's better judgment. When it goes wrong, A turns around and says, see, look what you got me into. The payoff for A is avoiding responsibility and justifying their own frustration or resentment.
Right. Okay, what about yes, but? The person who asks for advice but rejects every suggestion.
Classic yes, but. The player presents a problem, seemingly asking for help, but every solution offered is met with, yes, that's a good idea, but, followed by a reason why it won't work.
So they don't actually want a solution.
Not really. The hidden goal is often to prove the problem is unsolvable, to frustrate the helpers, and ultimately to feel justified in their helplessness, perhaps getting strokes for being in such a difficult predicament.
Okay. Then the very blunt, now I've got you, you son of a bitch, Niggy Saab.
Yeah.
The text used a poker analogy.
Yeah, like having an unbeatable hand. The pleasure isn't just winning, it's seeing the other person squirm. The plumber example was more everyday.
Remind me.
White thinks the plumber is overcharging. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. White sets him up, provocation, maybe by finding a tiny flaw. Then comes the accusation, this faucet drip is unacceptable. Plumber defends himself, maybe accusing White of causing the drip. White then gets the payoff punishment, maybe refusing to pay the full bill, feeling righteously angry.
And the payoff isn't just the money saved, it's the feeling.
Exactly. It's the justification for the anger, avoiding looking at their own role, getting social points if others agree the plumber was bad, releasing aggression, and confirming a cynical view. See, everyone's out to get you.
Look What You Made Me Do, LWYMMD, sounds similar to YGMITO.
Very related. It's about blaming someone else for your mistake or outburst. Often marital, but happens everywhere. Someone interrupts you while you're concentrating, you drop something, and you yell, "Look what you made me do!"
Deflecting blame.
Totally. The text mentioned it can be linked to paranoia in severe forms and how it can team up with "lets you and him fight" to create toxic triangles.
The game corner sounded particularly nasty, especially for kids, always being put in the wrong.
It's a terrible double bind. Whatever the child does, it's interpreted negatively. They're cornered, trapped. The text linked it speculatively to really serious outcomes like schizophrenia or even psychosomatic issues like asthma. It shows how deep these games can cut.
Frigid woman, that's a charged term.
It is, and Byrne used the language of his time. It describes a pattern where a woman might give off signals of sexual interest but then reject any advances, often angrily.
What's the payoff?
It could be justifying resentment, punishing the man, avoiding intimacy while still getting attention. Importantly, the text notes men can play a similar game, Frigid Man. It's about the dynamic, not just the gender.
Harried, the perpetually busy person.
Yes, often the housewife in Byrne's examples, but applicable to anyone. They fill their time with endless tasks, often feeling overwhelmed.
But it's a game.
It becomes a game if the busyness is used strategically to avoid something else, maybe intimacy, difficult decisions, or confronting unpleasant feelings. The payoff is the justification. I can't possibly do X, I'm too busy.
The alcoholic game seemed complex, with a whole cast of characters.
It's one of Byrne's most detailed analyses. You have the alcoholic, the main player, but also the patsy, the enabler, often providing money or excuses, the connection, the supplier, the rescuer, who tries to save them, and the prosecutor, who blames them.
And the spouse often plays multiple roles.
Yes, switching between rescuer, patsy, and prosecutor is common. The game structure helps explain why addiction can be so hard to break. Everyone has a role. Dry alcoholic shows the pattern can continue even without the substance. And things like martini, social drinking chatter, or next morning, hangover complaints, are related pastimes.
Debtor, you mentioned this could be a whole life script.
Exactly. More than just a game, it can define someone's life. Like the old tradition of bride purchase creating lifelong debt. Think modern mortgages, endless credit. The game isn't just having debt, it's the way one relates to it.
Like the collect your dues example.
Right. The couple delays paying a bill, maybe hoping it gets forgotten. When the collection letter comes, they feel righteously indignant. How dare they? It's a form of nijitob, confirming their belief that all creditors are greedy vultures.
Tick me, sounds pretty straightforward.
It is what it sounds like. The player unconsciously behaves in ways that invite criticism, rejection, or punishment, fulfilling a script of being victimized or not okay.
Rapo. The description involving families was quite disturbing.
It was. Byrne described a version often seen with dominant fathers, emotionally distant mothers, and adolescent daughters, where unresolved sexual tensions lead to escalating fights, often ending with door slamming, a way to avoid intimacy dysfunctionally. The degenerate version mentioned, involving checking clothing, is truly grim. But he stresses it can be played by any two people avoiding genuine sexual intimacy.
Then there were underworld games, cops and robbers.
Yeah, Byrne suggested that for some criminals, the main payoff isn't the loot, it's the thrill of the chase, the excitement of outsmarting the cops. It's a child ego state game of excitement and rebellion, distinct from the adult business of crime for profit. Kleptomania is a mild version.
And games even happen in therapy. Consultation room games. Greenhouse.
Greenhouse is where patients in a therapy group spend time analyzing each other's issues, sounding very insightful and psychological, but using it to avoid looking at their own stuff. It's intellectualized game playing.
I'm only trying to help you, not just for therapists.
Yeah. No, anyone in a helping role can play it. The poker anecdote was key. Giving help that isn't wanted or is actually harmful, often with a hidden payoff of feeling superior or controlling.
In its counterpart, poor me, played by clients.
Sometimes. It can be a way to elicit help or sympathy, playing the victim role. The anecdote about the welfare client showed it can be a very skillful performance.
Party games. Ain't it awful? We've all done that.
Oh, yeah. Complaining together about the weather, politics, the neighbors, it builds connection through shared negativity. A very common pastime that can function as a game.
Sexual games. the payoff isn't the sex itself.
No, the satisfaction comes from the game's outcome, the rejection, the chase, the drama, rather than genuine intimacy. Wooden Leg uses a handicap, real or imagined, as an excuse.
My wooden leg prevents me from...
Exactly. I can't possibly do that because of my problem. It gets sympathy and avoids responsibility. Sock was related to exhibitionism, provoking reactions.
Then games played by good guys. Seemingly positive actions.
Right, but with potential ulterior motives.
Mm-hmm.
Holiday, doing good deeds like volunteering on vacation, mostly constructive, unless it's a cover for something else. Cavalier, the charming pursuer, often insincere.
I'm glad to help the person who helps, but maybe want something back.
Yeah, helps everyone, but perhaps with an eye on future obligation, prestige, or control. Tricky to discuss, as the text noted.
Busman's holiday was just a scenario, and they'll be glad they knew me, helping friends for future validation.
These show how subtle the lines can be between genuine relating and game playing.
This has been fascinating. So Byrne's ultimate goal, beyond games, was autonomy.
Exactly. Autonomy means living game-free. It has 3 components: awareness, spontaneity, and intimacy.
Oh, awareness.
Being present here and now, not lost in the past or worrying about the future, really experiencing the world directly.
Spontaneity.
Having the freedom to choose how to respond from your full repertoire, parent, adult, or child appropriately, not just reacting based on old scripts.
And intimacy.
Which Byrne defined as genuine, game-free, honest connection. Direct, uncalculated relating. It's the opposite of playing games. He saw it as the most fulfilling form of social interaction.
So summing up, these psychological games are these repeated patterns, hidden messages, predictable bad feelings.
Right. But understanding them gives us a powerful tool. We can start to see these patterns in ourselves and others.
And maybe understand the needs behind the games.
That's the crucial insight, I think. Games, however dysfunctional, are often attempts to get fundamental needs met for strokes, for structure, for predictability, even if it's negative predictability.
So recognizing the game isn't just about spotting bad behavior, it's about potentially seeing an unmet need.
Yes, and if you can see the need, maybe you can find a healthier, more direct, more autonomous way to meet it, or to help someone else meet theirs.
Which brings us to the question for you, the listener. Reflecting on all this, do you recognize any games in your own life? In your interactions?
And if you do, can you gently ask yourself what need that game might be trying to fulfill, however clumsily?
Thinking about that could really be a starting point towards more authentic, maybe more satisfying relationships.
It's definitely worth exploring Byrne's work further if this resonates. There's a lot more detail there.
So what stood out most to you from our deep dive today? What questions are stirring? Take some time with these ideas.